back with another video. As I'm sure you know, about a week ago, the 92nd Academy Awards was held, and the South Korean film Parasite won Best Picture for 2019. It seems a lot of people are mad about the fact that Parasite won, for no deserving reason. Now today I will analyze and count down each nominee for Best Picture and tell you what I thought of the movie and other stuff, so stay tuned. First, some disclaimers. First of all, this is 100% fact and everything I say is correct. Just kidding, it's all my opinion, obviously. And second of all, the one nominee for Best Picture that somehow eluded me was Little Woman, which I'm sure is also a good movie, but I haven't seen it, so I won't be including that in this list. Also, these reviews may have some minor spoilers, but I will tell you if I end up doing that, and I will try my best to keep it spoiler-free, bro, so nothing to worry about. But these movies were really great, so as you can imagine, it was hard to put them in a numerical ranking. So all these movies are great, I'm saying right now, some I just love more than others. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more mediocre content, and without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, I know I might get some hate from Scorsese buffs about putting this in last place, man, but I mean, give me a break. I could not sit straight for 3 hours and watch this tank of a movie. Out of all the movies, this one was just meh for me. I mean, the reason for putting it on Netflix was probably so people could watch it in pieces, but, you know, I watched it in one sitting, which maybe wasn't the best idea. Now, the movie itself is obviously well made, it being Scorsese, but there's also lots of conversation, and conversation is good, but when conversation goes on for 3 hours with a few gunshots here, left, right, and center, you start falling asleep. I just think it would have been more watchable if it got slimmed by like 45 minutes or so. You know, maybe I need to watch it again to get a better idea of the movie, but I can't be bothered to, really. I did take note that the last hour became more interesting, except my memory is blurred because I was probably tired and sat watching this instead of writing an English essay I was supposed to do. I get it, it's supposed to be some ambitious crossover event with all these great actors, and they were great actors, let me tell you. Al Pacino is Jimmy Hoffa, Robert De Niro and all these old actors got this de-aging facial stuff that was actually kind of impressive, except all the men had the hunched-over appearance of a 70-year-old, but with like the face of a guy in their 40s, but this could be easily ignored. There was also Joe Pesci and the mammoth guy from Ice Age. Great acting. There is a thing that happened in the movie towards the end of the movie, and it was building up to this, and after it happened, I was like, what? No, how? I don't understand, oh my. And also, I didn't really get the ending, but this is definitely a great feature showing the ins and outs of this guy's life from the beginning to the end. But it really didn't vibe with me, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, at least not compared to some of the other movies on this list. This is the only one that's like, meh, you know, bro? Listen, I'm definitely not saying this is a bad movie. This is a great movie from a technical and film standpoint. I completely understand and respect this talent of great writing, filming, acting, and everything that cannot be ignored. However, personally to me, like 60 to 75% of this movie was boring to me. Much like with Casino, my inferior brain probably can't wrap itself around the ins and outs of such a complex feature. But the story is remarkably complex, and this was the last big mafia movie for Scorsese, but it's still kind of like meh, man, not gonna lie about it. Okay, now let's move on to more interesting movies, so I can't be bothered with this 3-hour epic, bro. Moving on! Joker was a good movie, but let's face it, it stood no chance against the other candidates, and there was no way it was winning Best Picture. Maybe because it's also a comic book movie. Nevertheless, this messed up tale is kind of insane. You know how most character arcs are either positive to negative or negative to positive? This one is kind of complex because it is positive to negative. A man is turning crazy, but at the same time it's negative to positive, as by the end he feels a lot better about himself than before. Yeah, so that's kind of weird because in the movie you don't know if you're supposed to be rooting for this guy or not. Joker is played by Joaquin Phoenix, who won an Oscar for his role. I mean, he did kind of have an advantage because the whole movie is literally about him, but he did a really good job. His name is Arthur Fleck, and this is somehow another Batman universe for like the 30th time. I don't know what happened with Ben Affleck, because in this movie, Bruce is a kid. Is this connected to that, or what is going on with the DCU? It's kind of confusing. Can someone explain to me in the comments below? As far as I know, this movie is unrelated to all of that. Yeah, so we get to see this man slowly go mad over a long while, and you even get, what's his name? Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro is the host of Saturday Night Live. And bro, the part with Saturday Night Live was kind of awesome. You want to hear another joke, Murray? Another thing is apparently Joker's laugh is a condition that he does when he is nervous, but apparently that laughing is like seriously creepy, like really, like it doesn't even sound like a normal laugh. It's like a crow or a raven rather than a human. I wonder how Joaquin got his vocal cords to do that. Like it sounded almost alienish, but that was kind of cool, bro. The movie definitely delivered and is one of the first truly great DC films of which I have seen at least. It looks like DC might be finally getting their stuff together. Finally. Wow, what a turn of events. I feel like in the future from now on, Marvel's going to slowly decline. You know they've had their run already. After Endgame, I really don't care that much about Marvel. The main story is done, and I'm not getting Disney Plus to finish it. But DC, on the other hand, they're just getting started. Joker could be the beginning, or it could be the end, we'll see. But after Justice League, it could only go up from here, am I right? Anyways, Joker was a great movie about a man with a mental illness and a finally delivered Joker origin story. Even though this is really good, it just couldn't compare to the rest of these movies, however. I literally just finished watching Ford v Ferrari like an hour ago, and damn, that was kind of epic. You know, I really didn't expect too much out of this going in. I'm not really into racing or sports for that matter. However, I quickly became much more invested in the movie, the characters, and the story than I ever thought I would. A good word to describe this movie is breathtaking. This movie picks up speed like a snowball rolling down a hill, and the racing scenes are actually breathtaking. The sound, the music, and everything really adds to really good editing on their part. I even think they won an Oscar for sound design or something. Like, it was so good. Christian Bale, however, bro, is what really makes this movie. He's amazing in this movie. Matt Damon was good too, but like Christian Bale takes the cake. He's such a likable yet unlikable person in the movie, and you're rooting for him as the film goes on. But this guy, Leo Beebe, in the movie, don't know who plays him, but he did a really good job of being a terrible person in the movie. If you think about it, this is kind of a live-action Cars. Which one is better, Cars or this? That's a tough question, but I think this one might be better. Sorry, Cars fans. Like I said, I really didn't think I would be interested in a racing movie, but the racing scenes are by far the best part of the movie, yet all the parts in between are good too. If you think you won't like this movie because of the same thing I just said about not being into racing or anything, I say give it a try. It's also based on a true story, which makes it even more interesting. But yeah, Christian Bale was amazing. I think the movie was paced well. There was always something interesting going on, some new challenge or obstacle by the end of it. You really care for the characters. The audience caring for the characters should be something easy to accomplish in film, yet it seems most blockbusters today can't even achieve that. Overall, Ford v Ferrari is a wild ride, literally. Marriage Story is a film with two supreme actors, so you know it's about to be good. This movie came on Netflix in like December, and it blew everyone away. Basically, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are getting a divorce, and that's the plot. This movie does a good job of making you lose track of time, because this movie had to be at least 2 hours. I don't remember how long. However, it seemed to be passed in the blink of an eye, and I didn't even check the clock once, and boom, it was 12 in the morning when the movie ended, which was pretty trippy. There are many great things about this film, but the great performances are the best part, I would say. Out of all the actors on this list of movies, these two killed it, especially Adam Driver. Another thing, while I was watching the film, I remember thinking, why aren't they arguing? I was thinking, bro, if they are getting divorced, shouldn't they be arguing with each other? Turns out the movie was holding its breath, because when they actually did argue, it was breathtaking, dramatic, and a great scene. This movie shows how crazy the process of divorce is, and like 1917, the movie really is war, only a different kind of war. I enjoyed that they showed lots of different people's perspectives from the beginning to the end. This is a must-watch, and the movie carries lots of emotional weight and stuff. One complaint I have is that even though it did show lots of perspectives on the matter, from the kid to the lawyer to everyone. I think they should have spent more screen time with Scarlett Johansson because it seems like more of it is spent on Adam Driver. Therefore, I felt for Driver more and wanted him to win. I just think they could have explored the mother's side a little more to see why she did some of the things she did. But that doesn't mean the movie is bad. It's still great. As Ray Liotta said, if they start from a place of crazy and we start from a place of reasonable, when we settle, we'll be somewhere between reasonable and crazy. This movie has a very simple premise, but is not simple in any way. Overall, this is a very well-made movie with a complex dilemma and omega acting. Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit. Wow, this was a great movie. I saw this trailer for this movie back in 2019, and I was like, damn, I want to see that in theaters, especially since it was directed by Taika Waititi. But I ended up not seeing it in theaters for some reason in October, and ended up buying it on the PlayStation 4 store not that long ago. I mean, I thought you could rent it on there for less money, but apparently not. But boy, let me tell you, this transaction was definitely worth it. So basically, the plot is this 10-year-old kid in the 1940s in Germany finds out his mom is hiding a Jew in her house, and he also has an imaginary friend, which is Hitler, who is also played by the director. And there's a lot more, but it's hard to explain. Jojo Rabbit is not what you would expect and is cleverly crafted. The best word to describe it is quirky. I mean, already the premise is wacky. A Nazi movie that's somehow a comedy? What? You know, this movie had to be smart because some of the content material could be easily offensive, but it doesn't come off that way, and it seems to work somehow. I mean, it really is making fun of Nazis and shows how bad they were because basically Jojo is in the Hitler Youth group and is crazily brainwashed. I mean, these kids were told crazy stuff, and it really had a tremendous effect on these young, impressionable children. What else did they think to believe when this is what society told them? But the movie does a good job of showing different sides. One side is Hitler, society telling him one thing, and then the other side is the Jewish girl, which is telling him another. Also, the movie isn't just a comedy, it's a comedy drama, it says online. This is because the movie has actually some emotional stuff, like really, and has some underlying themes and messages that really make this movie great. I really don't want to spoil anything to you, so you should just check it out. It is worth it, I promise. I don't think there was a single moment where I wasn't interested or invested, or maybe there was, I really don't remember. Anyways, Scarlett Johansson plays the mom and was good, and the kid actor guy was actually pretty good for a kid actor guy. In fact, everyone in this movie was great, and I can't even describe about the movie though. It's kind of hard to explain, honestly. You just gotta see it. It doesn't take itself very seriously at all, yet at the same time it takes itself very seriously. It shows how much propaganda these kids were shoveled, and Jojo is forced to think outside of this. You know, Marriage Story is probably a better movie than this, to be honest, but like when I hear Heroes by Bowie, sung in German, which I can't play for copyright reasons, I'm like, gosh, this is the best movie ever because the song is so good. So, you know, maybe that's clouding my judgment, but nevertheless, the movie is definitely great, and I wish more movies like this were made, creative and well made, rather than what I like to call factory content. This is a work of art. 1917. I saw this in theaters and it was a riot. If you don't know, this is a war story in World War I where two soldiers have to deliver a message to stop an attack from happening because their troops are walking into a trap, and if they don't get there in time, 1,600 men will die. A relatively simple idea, yet complicated. I think it's based on a true story too, but I'm not actually too sure. Anyways, this is a masterpiece in design and preparation of a film on a grand level. Basically, they did this trippy thing to make it look like one shot, except it wasn't if you don't know. So the camera followed the people all the time and it didn't cut. This required immense preparation of the set and everything to be exact and refined, which earns my respect, as it certainly pays off and sets it apart from other war movies, as very impressive on a technical scale. Also, I think because the camera follows the characters along, you seem to be more connected with the characters than if it cut back and forth. That being said, there could be some more character development in the main character Schofield, and we don't really get to see much of who he is, but I think it's enough as to this being ignored. Furthermore, this movie is very suspenseful and intense at points where you're on the edge of your seat with nail-biting anxiety. And for anyone out there who saw the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There was a scene with something that scared the living daylights out of me and probably everyone in the theaters. This moment is really great, and I think it will be remembered in years to come. There is a constant and total anxiety throughout the film, it seems, because the enemy could be anywhere, and it's especially bad when the characters are out in the open. They could get shot at literally any moment, and it's terrifying. Because the camera never cuts away, you feel like you're a third person traveling with them, and this never gives you a feeling of safety for most of the journey. The set is also impressive as there is junk and spoils of war and bodies literally everywhere. You don't really get to see a lot of shooting, but these bodies do remind you that it's happening. There also are lots of great moments as well in the movie, and the best word to describe this movie is immersive. In comparison to the movie Dunkirk, man, that's a tough question. Why you gotta be like that, man? I mean, I only saw each movie once, so you might need to refresh my memory on Dunkirk, but Dunkirk seemed to be kind of better, not gonna lie, though it's hard to compare. They're both unique in their own way. Overall, Dunkirk, 1917, is an immersive and suspenseful movie that is a masterpiece on a technical and spectacle level and on a visual level. For a lot of this movie, there isn't talking, I think, but the awesome visuals really complement this. The constant fear of being spotted by the enemy, along with the trippy camera techniques, really add to the film. No, but for real, this movie is really quite impressive. I don't know how they pulled this off, but they did. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Wow. 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 I watched a Jeremy Johns review of this, and he said he did not like this movie for some strange reason. He also said if you've never seen a Tarantino movie before this will not make you a Tarantino fan. Bro. Yeah, this was my first Tarantino movie, and I am definitely interested in more. Yes, please, more violence. Don't know what you're talking about, Jeremy. This is a great movie with great actors, firstly, like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Burt Russell, and other familiar faces, bro. And they add to the movie because, yeah, great actors. For some reason, I feel I like this movie more than the other people who also watched it, and I think many don't like this compared to the other movies on the list. Which I can see because the first hour is kind of slow. That is a fact. However, it was an enjoyable slow, at least to me, and an interesting boring, not like the dull boring of The Irishman. Wait, interesting boring doesn't make sense, does it? Never mind. Also, another misconception is that this is a Manson movie, which is not really true. Only like part of it has to do with that, but the parts that did involve Manson and historical stuff was actually kind of interesting and also kind of crazy and creepy, not gonna lie. Many great movie moments in this movie, partly due to the great actors. Brad Pitt does a great job as Cliff Booth, like a really good job, and you can tell that the other two characters in the movie, Sharon Tate and Rick Dalton, are just losing their minds and having mental breakdowns. Meanwhile, Brad Pitt just chilling, he just vibing. And I know this movie's obviously directed towards people who lived in this time and era in Hollywood, boomers. People that lived in the 60s or in Los Angeles probably got a better time out of this movie, and people who did not feel the nostalgia vibes did not get it. Even though I have nothing to do with LA or the 60s, it was somehow interesting to me. The cars, the clothing, the brightly lit streets, the culture, it was interesting to see people appear to be living in 1969. But the best part of being taken place in 1969 is by far the music. Bro, this is the kind of music people should listen to nowadays. Out of Time by the Rolling Stones is a new favorite of mine, thank you, along with a bunch of other 60s songs that really enhanced this experience for me. The music was amazing and it made it an already pretty epic movie even more epic. Also, and the sequence was great too. I'll just show you this image, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. This whole sequence was great, and it was my first time with a Tarantino film. And when some of the things happened, I wasn't even horrified. I was kind of like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Looking back on that, I probably should have been horrified, but I'll be honest, it was kind of an epic moment. Also, the whole movie is great in general, and I can't wait till I somehow own a hard copy of this movie. This movie is great overall with great music and by far one of the best movies on this list. I love this movie. However, it is not the best, and I will say there is one greater than even this. 1. Parasite. Really don't know how I'm going to talk about this without spoiling it, so I'm just going to try and keep it vague for y'all, but Parasite is officially the best movie of the year deemed by the Oscars, and I have to say I agree with this. Anyone who has seen this has to agree that this was great. I'm sure you've already heard this about the movie, but it starts off as one thing and changes into another. It mixes genres and goes from something interesting to a comedy to a suspense thriller and then to a dark horror movie. It all makes sense somehow and is crafted and put together perfectly, and this was very well directed indeed. Whoever was the writer for this is a genius. I mean, really, who comes up with stuff like this? Really? The marketing had to be vague on something like this without spoiling it, so maybe not a lot of people didn't see it because there seemed to be nothing of value in the trailer, which is understandable. Also, it is a foreign film, but as the director Bong Joon-ho said, sorry if I mispronounced that, he said, once you overcome this 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more amazing films. So I think it is significant that this won the Oscars, as this is a historic moment in cinema, the first foreign film to finally win Best Picture, and this opens more doors in that direction. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could have won, but Parasite, in my opinion, deserves some of the cake, and this came out victorious. But anyways, back to the movie. I really cannot find one flaw in this movie. It is kind of perfect, and it's the best movie of 2019. In all the suspenseful parts, or even violent parts, it was truly horrifying. Like when some of the pretty violent stuff happened in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or in Joker, I was like, wow, that's pretty epic. But when suspenseful or scary stuff happened in this movie, I was literally screaming at the top of my lungs in fright. I'm not even gonna lie to you. There's a specific part I would tell you about, but I would spoil it, so I can't. Apart from this, the movie has a lot of symbolism, and you can really see the difference between the rich in the movie and the poor. It also conveyed in a way that you understand the poor's actions and also the rich's actions. Everything makes sense. This acting is actually pretty good too, and adds to the movie. This movie takes turns you would have never expected it to take, and is truly a masterpiece. You gotta see this movie, I'm telling you. You gotta see all these movies actually, but especially this one. Don't let the fact that it's a foreign film turn you away. This movie seems fresh, as if it was made by someone with a fresh burst of energy and a love for movies. Compare that to some of the blockbusters of today, unoriginal and endless reboots or sequels. Parasite really takes the cake. It's original too. I can't think of any kind of crazy story like this. Overall, these movies, The Irishman, Joker, Ford v Ferrari, Marriage Story, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite were all great and I loved them. Save The Irishman, I'm sorry. Maybe the order of them was a little off and could be swapped around a little. Sure, some are better than others, but when you're dealing with a bunch of really great movies, it's hard to compare them. Each one has its ups and some downs, but they are really examples of what film can do, what can be accomplished compared to some really bad movies that exist out there. Alright, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and smack that like button, and I can't wait for some more awesome movies to come out in 2020. Peace.